A quiet cremation service outside Glasgow was violently disrupted in August 2025. According to reporting by Glasgow Live, 3 men were injured during an attack involving multiple assailants at Hurlet Crematorium. At first glance, it appeared to be an isolated act of violence. In reality, it unfolded against the backdrop of one of Scotland's most bitter and dangerous motorcycle club feuds. This conflict has already involved pipe bombs, arson attacks, and years of escalating retaliation. The central question raised by the crematorium incident is whether it was connected to the ongoing war between 2 rival clubs, the Blue Angels, Europe's oldest outlaw motorcycle club, and the Mad Dogs, a breakaway group formed by a former Blue Angels member whose defection fractured Scotland's biker underworld. In this video, we examine the documented history of this feud, the criminal convictions tied to it, the wider context of Scottish organized crime, and how a personal betrayal between former brothers spiraled into a violent conflict, now spilling into public spaces. By the end, the real story behind Scotland's most dangerous biker war becomes clear. To understand the violence spreading across Scotland, it is essential to understand the history of the Blue Angels Motorcycle Club. Founded in Glasgow's Maryhill area in 1963 by Alan Morrison and Billy Stone Gordon, the Blue Angels are widely recognized as Europe's oldest outlaw motorcycle club. Their longevity represents more than tradition. It reflects decades spent building power, territory, and reputation across Scotland and beyond. The club emerged from Glasgow's gang culture of the 1960s, a period marked by protection rackets, illegal gambling, and prostitution rings. Court records describe how the Blue Angels quickly developed a reputation for extreme violence through clashes with mod gangs and street crews, including the Maryhill Fleet. These conflicts were not minor disputes. They involved large-scale bar brawls followed by organized revenge attacks, using petrol bombs against pubs and cafes. By September 1964, violence had escalated to such an extent that a mass brawl involving hundreds of gang members in Glasgow city centre resulted in a Blue Angels member receiving a life sentence. That conviction forced criminal leaders across the city to negotiate informal truces that shaped territorial boundaries for decades. Over time, the Blue Angels consolidated their dominance by absorbing smaller gangs, including the Roadburners and the Garscadden Blackhawks. Their influence expanded across Western Scotland and later internationally. Today, the club operates chapters in Scotland, England, Belgium, and Spain, making it one of the most far-reaching outlaw motorcycle organizations in Europe. Their greatest threat, however, did not come from outside rivals. It came from within. That threat emerged in the form of Daniel Leander, a senior Blue Angels member whose decision to break away would ignite Scotland's most violent biker feud in modern history. According to court records from his 2024 conviction, Leander left the Blue Angels in 2023 and founded a rival club known as the Mad Dogs Motorcycle Club. In outlaw biker culture, forming a breakaway club is considered a profound act of betrayal. It challenges the authority, legitimacy, and legacy of the parent organization. Leander was not a peripheral figure. He was a senior member with deep knowledge of the Blue Angels' operations, contacts, and vulnerabilities. When he formed the Mad Dogs, he took that institutional knowledge with him, creating a direct threat to Blue Angels' territory, recruitment, and criminal interests. The retaliation began almost immediately. Court testimony revealed that motorcycles belonging to Leander's associates were set on fire. Groups of bikers appeared at his home address and issued violent threats. These were targeted acts designed to intimidate and force him to abandon his new club. Throughout 2023 and into 2024, The feud escalated through systematic intimidation, property destruction, and threats. But it reached a critical turning point in June 2024, when Leander chose to retaliate in a way that shocked even Scotland's most experienced law enforcement officers. On the evening of June 7, 2024, David Rowe Sr. parked his BT Openreach van outside his home in Lennoxtown, East Dunbartonshire. Rowe was not a motorcycle club member. His only connection to the biker world was his son, who belonged to the Blue Angels. In the logic of gang warfare, that connection made him a target. Later that night, Leander and an accomplice drove to the area. Using materials they had purchased earlier, including duct tape and water bottles later found to contain Leander's DNA and fingerprints, they constructed an improvised explosive device filled with petrol and ball bearings. The device was fitted with a remote detonation system. Leander placed the bomb under the van and waited. When he believed no civilians were nearby, he detonated it remotely. The explosion destroyed the vehicle and triggered a major emergency response. Nearby residents were evacuated, and a Royal Navy explosive ordnance disposal unit was called in to ensure no additional devices were present. For police, this attack marked a dangerous escalation. This was not a fight between rival bikers. It was the use of an improvised explosive device in a residential neighborhood. The message was unmistakable. The feud had crossed into attempted murder. Investigators traced Leander using modern policing methods. Doorbell camera footage captured the same Range Rover seen on the Mad Dogs Motorcycle Club's Facebook page. Social media posts from the day of the attack showed Leander and his accomplice together. When police arrested him on July 3, 2024, they made another alarming discovery. At his residence in Bargeddie, they found a loaded sawn-off double-barrel shotgun. A garage linked to the Mad Dogs contained components matching those used in the bombing, including remote firing systems. Leander was charged with willful fire-raising and possession of prohibited firearms. In November 2024, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison at the High Court in Glasgow. The judge described the case as stemming from a feud triggered by Leander's departure from the Blue Angels and emphasized the extreme seriousness of using explosive devices in residential areas. The sentence sent a clear message. Claims of justification or retaliation would not mitigate the use of military-style weapons. While the biker feud escalated at home, Scottish organized crime was making headlines abroad. On May 31, 2025, two prominent Glasgow criminals, Ross Monaghan and Eddie Lyons Jr., were shot dead outside an Irish bar in Fuengirola, Spain. Both men were linked to the Lyons crime family and had relocated to Spain after surviving previous attempts on their lives in Scotland. A masked gunman entered the bar during the Champions League final and executed both men in front of witnesses. Spanish authorities identified the killings as part of long-running Scottish gang rivalries that had spilled onto the Costa del Sol. Within days, investigators traced the suspect's escape route to Portugal and back to the UK. In June 2025, Merseyside police arrested a 44-year-old man on an international warrant. These killings underscored the global reach of Scottish organized crime networks. Against this backdrop of bombings, arson, and international executions, the August 2025 incident at Hurlet Crematorium takes on deeper significance. While official details remain limited, media reports described a hammer attack involving multiple men during a motorcyclist's funeral. Funerals are one of the few occasions when large numbers of biker club members gather publicly. Attacking mourners at a crematorium represents a severe breach of traditional boundaries, even within criminal culture. Whether or not the incident is formally linked to the Blue Angels' Mad Dogs feud, It occurred within an atmosphere of fear, retaliation, and unresolved hostility. The conflict between the Blue Angels and the Mad Dogs is not just a biker rivalry. It is a case study in how personal betrayal can ignite cycles of violence that endanger entire communities. Leander's decision to break away has already resulted in bombings, arson attacks, prison sentences, and international repercussions. The crematorium incident highlights how far such conflicts can spread, disrupting even moments of mourning. As law enforcement agencies continue investigations and international cooperation intensifies, the challenge remains breaking the cycle of retaliation that sustains these wars. The Blue Angels may be Europe's oldest outlaw motorcycle club, but their conflict with the Mad Dogs represents a modern form of organized crime, combining old loyalty codes with contemporary weapons, global networks, and digital coordination. Understanding this feud is essential to understanding how organized crime operates in 21st century Scotland.